Hello, and welcome to New England Escapades. Today we visited Old Sturbridge Village in Sturbridge, Massachusetts. Here's what we learned in our adventure. Situated in south-central Massachusetts, Old Sturbridge Village is one of the largest outdoor history museums in the country with 200 forested acres. The village includes 59 antique buildings, 3 water-powered mills, and a working farm. Third-person costumed interpreters demonstrate and interpret 19th century arts, crafts, and agricultural work. The museum is popular among tourists and for educational field trips. The museum's history dates back to the 19th century, when the grounds were a farm owned by David White. The farm included a sawmill, a grist mill, and a mill pond, which still powers the mills today. In 1795, White's son went to Boston to conduct some business on behalf of his father. While in Boston, he bought tickets to the Harvard Lottery, which was a fundraising technique for Harvard College. He won $5,000, equivalent to over $80,000 today. He gave his father money to pay off the mortgage on his farm. Meanwhile, George Washington Wells started a small spectacle shop in Southbridge, Massachusetts in the 1840s, which became the American Optical Company. His sons Channing, Albert, called A.B., and Cheney followed him into the business, which continued to expand. In 1926, A.B. began to shop for antiques, and this influenced Cheney to collect early American timepieces and Channing to collect fine furniture. By the early 1930s, A.B. had more than 45 rooms full of antiques in his Southbridge home. The Wells family and others formed the Wells Historical Museum in 1935. In July 1936, the museum's trustees met to determine how the collections would best be presented to the public. A.B. wanted to create a small cluster of buildings in a horseshoe around a common, but his son George proposed creating a live village with operating shops and a source of water power. Within a week of the meeting, the museum purchased David White's farm and soon after hired Malcolm Watkins as the first curator of the museum, which they called Quinnebog Village in honor of the river. Architect Arthur Shercliffe was called in to help lay out a suitable country landscape. By 1941, the Fitch House, the Minor Grant Store, and the Richardson House, now the parsonage, were on the common and the grist mill was in operation. After a pause for World War II, George's wife Ruth became acting director of the village. They changed its name to Old Sturbridge Village and opened it on June 8, 1946. Attendance climbed, mostly through word of mouth. In a 1950 article in the Saturday Evening Post, the village was featured as the town that wants to be out of date. By 1955, it acquired the Meeting House from the Fiskdale neighborhood of Sturbridge, as well as the Salem Town House, the Fenno House, the Friends Meeting House, the Pliny Freeman House, the Printing Office, and the District School. On August 18, 1955, gale force winds and a torrential downpour from Hurricane Diane created floodwaters that broke dams in surrounding towns and flooded the village, stranding 15 staff members. The Freeman farmhouse was flooded and the covered bridge was swept off of its foundation. Helicopters kept staff members supplied for 3 days until the waters receded. The damage was estimated to be $250,000 in 1955 currency, but the employees managed to reopen the village in just 9 days. Today, more than 250,000 visitors annually, including 55,000 students, experience an immersion into early American history through the museum's historic buildings and landscapes, collections and exhibits, and most importantly, interaction with costumed historians, artisans, and farmers. The village hosts history and seasonal themed events such as homeschool days, kids' summer camps, and Christmas by candlelight. Old Sturbridge Village is frequently host to naturalization ceremonies on the 4th of July. In 2018, 150 new U.S. citizens were naturalized at the village. Whether you're a history buff or just curious to see the blacksmiths and shoemakers of old in action, Old Sturbridge Village is a must-see museum in Massachusetts. Located at 1 Old Sturbridge Village Rd in Sturbridge, Massachusetts, the village is about an hour drive from Boston. Thank you for watching, and keep on adventuring.